In the endless hypnotic scroll of a billion digital lives, it was easy to miss. A thumb flickers across the screen, past filtered sunsets, sponsored posts, and algorithm-fed outrage. Then, an image that arrests the motion, not for its beauty, but for its strange, illicit allure. The page was called Albanian Blood. The photos were a masterclass in suggestion. Crystalline buds of cannabis, so close up you could almost smell their citrus pine scent through the screen, glistened under a photographer's light. Thick wads of 50-pound notes, held together by simple rubber bands, fanned out across the leather dashboard of a German performance car. A darkened vehicle, its windows tinted to an impossible black, sat parked on a quiet, leafy London street, a predator resting in suburbia. To the vast majority, it was digital detritus, another account glorifying a subculture they didn't understand. It was weed, it was cash, it was cars, it was noise. But for a select, growing audience, this was not noise. It was a signal. This was not a fan page, it was a catalog. Behind the cryptic captions and the carefully cropped images was a man who had fused the mechanics of social media with the ruthlessness of organized crime. A man who called himself the devil and wore the title like a crown. He didn't hide his transgressions, he monetized them, turning threats into branding and felonies into content. This is the story of how the mundane tools of the 21st century, a smartphone, an internet connection, and a suburban basement, became the foundation of one of Britain's most audacious narcotics empires. It is the story of a man who built a kingdom on a platform of pure bravado, only to watch it all come crashing down under the weight of his own digital ghost. Salamat Mehmag's genius was not in cultivation, but in curation. He understood that on Instagram, aesthetics were everything. He weaponized the platform's visual language, transforming it into a ruthlessly efficient, low-overhead sales machine. Albanian Blood was his flagship, a digital speakeasy for the modern age. There were no clumsy DM for prices captions. The marketing was far more sophisticated. Strain names, Stardog, Wedding Cake, Cream Caramel were presented like luxury goods, their names floating above high-definition photos that showcased every detail. The posts were a masterclass in visual storytelling, communicating potency and quality without a single explicit claim. This wasn't a drug deal, it was an exclusive drop. The lack of overt pricing created an aura of exclusivity, a members-only club where you had to be brave enough to knock on the digital door. Mehmeti ran a network of interconnected accounts, a self-sustaining ecosystem of hype. His main personal account, boasting over 12,000 followers, was the Lifestyle Engine. It projected an image of untouchable success, high-speed drives, designer clothes, and an endless supply of cash. This account served as the top of the sales funnel, drawing in aspirational followers and building a cult of personality. Strategic reposts would then direct the truly interested towards the business end. Albanian Blood. The real work happened in the shadows of the direct messages. A new message would appear, often from a dummy account with no posts and a generic profile picture. The query would be simple, coded, "You about?" or "Menu?" Mehmeti's response was swift, professional. A menu of available strains would be provided. Quantities were discussed in a detached, business-like manner. Once terms were agreed upon, the conversation moved to encrypted platforms like Telegram or Signal, where delivery details were finalized and the digital trail went cold. The anonymity was his shield. By the time Instagram's moderators would inevitably identify and remove a page, the deals were done, the money was made, and a new page was already waiting in the wings. It was a criminal hydra. Cut off one head, and two more would grow in its place. The man behind the screen did not arrive in the UK a kingpin. Salamat Mehmag came to London in 2011 from Tropoja, a stark, unforgiving region of northern Albania. It is a land of dramatic mountains and ancient codes of honor, a place where opportunity is scarce and the pull of a different life in a city like London is magnetic. He sought something bigger, and in the sprawling, anonymous metropolis, he found it. For years, he was a ghost. He settled in a 5-bedroom flat in Palmer's Green, a quiet middle-class suburb in North London known for its parks and peaceful residential streets. He started a family, building a veneer of domestic respectability. On paper, he didn't exist in the world of work. No tax records, no registered employment, no formal business. He was just another face in the crowd. But behind the respectable facade of that suburban home, a criminal blueprint was being drawn, methodical and ambitious. He was not a lone wolf. At his side was his younger brother, Dior Mehmagay, his loyal second-in-command. Prosecutors would later describe Dior as Salamat's right hand, the trusted lieutenant in the burgeoning operation. Dior's own existence in the UK was precarious. He had entered the country illegally, and his asylum claim had been rejected in 2022. With no legitimate income and facing deportation, his loyalty to his brother and the criminal network was absolute. He had nothing to lose and everything to gain. Even as the operation grew in scale and secrecy, Salamat developed a dangerous taste for public provocation. He began filming his routine encounters with the police. In the videos, he is the picture of cool confidence, a smirk playing on his lips as officers search his vehicle. Inevitably, they would find nothing, and he would be waved on his way. He would then meticulously edit these clips, adding laughing emojis and mocking captions, and upload them for his thousands of followers. Each non-arrest was spun into a victory, a testament to his cleverness. He wasn't hiding from the law. He was openly daring it to catch him, building his legend one traffic stop at a time. Mehmagay's empire was not built on importation. It was a vertically integrated, homegrown operation. 2 unassuming houses in North London, indistinguishable from their neighbors, were secretly hollowed out and re-engineered into highly sophisticated cannabis factories. This was not amateur horticulture. This was industrial agriculture. To step inside was to enter another world. The air was thick and humid, heavy with the cloying, pungent aroma of flowering cannabis. A constant low hum from ventilation fans and high-powered ballasts filled the space. Interior walls had been demolished to create vast, open-plan grow rooms, their surfaces meticulously lined with reflective mylar to magnify the intense glare of the sodium grow lights. These lights, hanging in neat rows, were hooked up to complex timer systems, programmed to mimic perfect daylight cycles and trick the plants into maximum yield. The electricity meters had been bypassed, with thick cables running directly from the mains, stealing thousands of pounds worth of power. This machine was run by human cogs. The court would later hear how Mehmagay exploited undocumented Albanian men, paying them a paltry £100 a week to live and work inside these illegal farms. They were effectively prisoners, trapped by their illegal status and economic desperation. Their work was relentless, feeding nutrients, trimming leaves, managing humidity, and living 24/7 in the oppressive, intoxicating atmosphere. They were the invisible workforce behind the glossy Instagram brand. The output was immense. Mehmagay boasted to undercover reporters that his network could cultivate up to 2,500 plants a month, which he called his babies. The harvest was a multi-stage process of drying, curing, and packaging before being sold wholesale, hundreds of units at a time, to dealers across the UK. He claimed a single kilogram of his premium wedding cake strain could fetch up to £5,500 in cities like Liverpool. With multiple harvests per year from multiple locations, the suburban homes were transformed into cash machines, churning out a river of untraceable money that would eventually add up to millions. Salamat Mehmagay understood something profound about his era. Crime was no longer just about profit. It was about performance. His online persona was his greatest creation, a carefully constructed hybrid of a rap mogul, a gangster, and a digital age outlaw. His life was a stage, and Instagram was his global broadcast network. The flaunting of wealth was relentless and calculated. He drove a $50,000 Mercedes-Benz CLA AMG and a $115,000 Audi RS7, a monster of a car. But it wasn't enough to own them. He had to perform with them. He posted videos of himself flooring the accelerator on public motorways, the digital speedometer climbing past 140 mph, and in one infamous clip, allegedly touching 230 mph on the M1. He openly bragged about using fake number plates to outsmart police cameras, framing law-breaking as a display of superior intelligence. The performance art escalated into music production. His rap videos were dark, cinematic affairs. They featured masked men wielding imitation firearms and chillingly realistic scenes of mock torture. In one, he stages a mock interrogation in a room lined with plastic sheeting, a direct homage to mafia movie iconography. The self-written lyrics were a manifesto of his power. He crowned himself number one and rapped about opening fire to protect his people. His audacity peaked after his criminal activities were first exposed by the media. Instead of retreating into the shadows, he stepped directly into the spotlight. He accepted an invitation to appear on a primetime talk show in Albania, a program normally reserved for A-list celebrities and politicians. Lounging on the studio sofa, he smiled, relaxed and confident, calmly denying any wrongdoing as the host fawned over him and laughed along. The line between infamy and celebrity had completely dissolved. He was no longer just a criminal, he was a media personality. Each brush with the law, like the time a Russian PK machine gun was found in his car, was not a warning, but a chapter in his story, fuel for the ever-growing myth of the untouchable devil of North London. Beneath the digital veneer of fast cars and easy money, the Albanian blood empire was built on a foundation of cold, brutal violence. Mehmed understood that in his world, respect was a currency earned through fear. He told reporters that trust was everything, and he had a gruesome method for dealing with those who broke it. He recounted one incident to undercover journalists with the detached air of a manager discussing a personnel issue. A client from Stoke-on-Trent had failed to pay for a large shipment. For Mehmed, this was not just a financial loss, it was a challenge to his authority. Using a mutual acquaintance as bait, he lured the man to a meeting. As soon as the target arrived, Mehmed's crew ambushed him, forcing him into a van and driving him hours south to a nondescript rowhouse basement in London. For 3 days, they held him captive. The beatings were methodical, but it wasn't enough. Mehmed wanted to make an example of him, a story that would travel through the underworld. "I cut off 2 of his fingers," he stated flatly, without a hint of emotion. He then called the man's terrified family, informing them that if the debt was not paid immediately, his foot would be the next part to be mailed back to them. He wasn't haunted by the act. He was proud of it. He boasted that he slept like a baby that night, claiming the real stress had been the anxiety of not catching the man sooner. The violence was a calculated business decision, a terrifying form of marketing broadcast through whispers and rumors. This was the dark engine running beneath the glossy brand. The promise that behind every stylish photo was a man willing to exact a medieval price for disobedience. The trap that would finally ensnare Salamat Mehmedi was one he laid for himself. The beginning of the end came not from a police informant, but from a simple Instagram DM. Posing as drug dealers looking for a new wholesale supplier, undercover reporters from the Daily Mail reached out to Albanian Blood. Mehmed, ever the businessman, replied promptly. A meeting was arranged at a generic coffee shop in Palmer's Green, the heart of his suburban territory. He arrived in his black Mercedes, parked with characteristic arrogance without a front number plate. Inside, over the clinking of cups and the hiss of an espresso machine, Mehmed delivered his own indictment. Relaxed and utterly confident, he believed he was pitching to new clients. He laid out his entire business model with the pride of a Silicon Valley founder. He explained how the COVID-19 lockdowns had been a godsend, creating a captive market and sending demand through the roof. He detailed the scale of his operation, the logistics of his supply chain, and his methods for evading the law. Then came the moment of ultimate hubris. He gleefully recounted a past police raid on his home, laughing at how the officers had been so incompetent that they had completely missed a hidden room containing, by his own admission, bullets, cocaine, and more cannabis. He was a waterfall of self-incrimination, his ego writing a confession in real time. Every boast was another nail in his coffin. The reporters sat, listened, and recorded. The footage, the admissions, the locations, he handed them everything. The digital persona he had so carefully constructed to project an image of untouchable power had just become the primary exhibit in the case against him. The trap had snapped shut. Armed with the Daily Mail's bombshell report, the Metropolitan Police had all they needed. A dedicated task force was assigned, and for 2 months they conducted intensive surveillance. They watched his homes, tracked his cars, and patiently built an irrefutable case. In November 2022, they made their move. At dawn, tactical units smashed through the doors of the North London grow houses. Officers reported being hit by an overpowering wall of sound and smell, the hum of industrial fans and the pungent stench of cannabis. Inside the first house, they found Salamat Mehmagay, his brother Dior, and 2 of their workers. They were all wearing latex gloves, caught red-handed tending to a forest of 90 mature plants. A few days later, a second raid yielded 50 more. The street value of the seizures was estimated at up to 166,000 $166,000. When Salamat and Dior Mehmagay finally appeared at Wood Green Crown Court, the long performance was over. In a final, defiant piece of branding, they arrived dressed in matching sharp black suits, white shirts, and black ties, a cinematic look that drew immediate comparisons to Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs. But the swagger was gone. The prosecutor detailed a sophisticated enterprise, and Judge Karim Ezzat condemned Mehmagay for his hands-on, directing role. There were no more boasts, no more mocking captions. Faced with a mountain of evidence, much of it from his own mouth, they stood silently and pleaded guilty. The devil was finally brought to account. In August 2023, Salamat Mehmagay was sentenced to 4.5 years in prison. For most, this would be the end of the story. But for a man whose very identity was intertwined with his digital presence, a prison cell was just a new stage. Months into his sentence, he was back online. Photos began to appear on his social media accounts, broadcast from a contraband phone inside his cell. They were classic Mehmagay. Selfies showing him flexing his muscles, wearing branded sportswear, with his own menacing rap music as the soundtrack. He was communicating directly with his followers, assuring them he was unbroken. The prison service launched an investigation, but the posts continued. His supporters flooded the comments with messages of "Free Mezo," treating him not as a convicted criminal, but as a political prisoner. The myth he created proved more resilient than the man. Dior, his right hand faded into the legal system, his final sentence unconfirmed by public records. But Salamat, the architect, refused to be silenced. His story is a chilling parable for our time, a testament to how the lines between crime, fame, and entertainment have irrevocably blurred. The final, troubling question is not whether his sentence was long enough, but whether a physical prison can ever contain a man whose kingdom was built in the digital ether. You can lock up the body, but how do you imprison a ghost in the machine?